Welcome to Future Foodcast. I'm Pam Miller, your host. Who'd like to talk about chocolate? I have hardly met a person who doesn't love chocolate. And today we are going to speak with Keith Bearden. He is the CEO of Alter Eco Foods. Welcome to the show, Keith.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. Love chocolate and would love to hear all about what you're doing that's unique in that space with Alter Eco Foods. But first of all, you have a rich history with this company. Can you give us a little bit of a track record here?
Yeah, I've been associated with the company for about 5 or 6 years now. The company was previously owned by a private equity group out of San Francisco, like many of the natural foods companies in the world today. And I was an advisor to that private equity group for a number of years, peripherally associated with Alter Eco. But about 3 years ago, they asked me to join the board of Alter Eco to help move the company along. My background is in food and beverage for about the past 25 years. I've run companies, international companies, CPG companies, but also done a lot of work on an ingredient side and sold a lot of ingredients to food and nutraceutical manufacturers. So I joined the board of Alter Eco about the end of 2020, and about December of 2022, the private equity group decided that they wanted to sell the company, and they went through a process. Again, like most private equity companies, they had owned Alter Eco for about 7 years at that point. And they went through a process and had a lot of interested parties. Nobody really crossed the finish line the way they wanted them to. And so they asked me at that point to step in as the CEO. And instead, I raised my hand and said, I'd like to buy the company.
There you go.
So that was a good conversation with the group and a little bit of negotiation on valuations. But then I put together a group through some mutual acquaintances and friends of mine, and we created a private equity fund called Trek One Capital. And Trek One Capital acquired Alter Eco in December of 2023. And I became the CEO of Alter Eco in September of 23 because we knew that that transaction was going to take place. And so I started laying the foundation for the transition. So I've been running the company almost a year now.
Okay.
So
And associated with it for longer in different ways, but the company's not a young company. They've been around for long.
no, yeah, the company's been around for over 20 years. Originally founded by a couple of guys that really took the mission of wanting to do good in the world, and that's really about what Alter Eco stands for. We produce amazing chocolate, we really do, and I would challenge anyone to go out and try our chocolates because I think they're some of the best in the world. But the company was founded around the principles of restoring ecosystems, hence the name Alter Eco, improving livelihoods, and then reducing waste. And so, I mean, we constantly in this marketplace overuse the phrase, I think, conscious capitalism, but it really was centered around those three main principles. And so one of the objectives of restoring ecosystems is that we try to source as much of our product as we can from farmers that are practicing regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
And every year we measure ourselves in that regard. And so we just actually published our 2023 results. It takes us about 6 months to gather all the data, but we published our 2023 results, and 75% of our cocoa beans actually came from farms that are practicing regenerative agriculture. And that's up from 66% in 2022. And of course, our goal is 100%, but we hope to get to 100% by 2030.
Right. Now, this is a great mission. And honestly, 20 years ago was really kind of more on the front end. I think there's a lot more awareness now on some of the initiatives that you spoke about, and people are really more focused. But 20 years ago, that was a bit forward thinking to talk about that.
It really was. And they came up with this concept because they toured a lot of the cacao plantations, both in Latin America and throughout Africa. And if you know anything about the cacao market, it really comes from two major regions of the world, western coast of Africa and Latin America. And so they saw that some of the farmers were practicing regenerative agriculture and didn't even really know it. They were just trying to make a living. But then you found some areas where there was industrialized farming and they had clear cut all the undergrowth, they had cut down all the trees, and they had planted cacao plants. And the problem with that is that there's no shade for the cacao. If you have a drought year, which we've had for the last few years, and I can tell you a little bit about what's happening in the market, but that doesn't offer any protection for the plants. And so, you're subject to whatever the climate conditions are happening around you. And so they came up with an idea of really trying to focus on regenerative agriculture and actually training the farmers and going in and working with the co-ops. And so we've worked with the same cooperatives in some of these regions for almost 20 years now. And we know them personally and we know the farmers. And so, we travel into the regions and meet with the farmers on an annual basis, at least annually. I was in Colombia and Peru in February, and I'm going back again in October. So it's something that's really important to us, is to help them restore the ecosystem. We throw around the phrase that we're improving the planet one chocolate bar at a time.
Okay. Well, that works for you. And listeners and viewers of our show will know that I often say that we want to keep our farmers farming, and the efforts that you're making in the education space, encouraging and helping to maybe hone the skills of the farmers who were already practicing regenerative agriculture and didn't realize it, had good practices. And then, obviously educating and trying to click it forward with those who aren't, to show them the benefits of doing that and help them move in a different direction. Obviously, you keep increasing your percentage of farmers that you're working with that are practicing, have good practices in the agriculture area. So kudos to you. Thank you for being part of the solution to that situation. But the company also has several certifications that talk about what your initiatives are. I mean, you're not just talking about it. You actually are B Corp certified from a long time ago.
We've been B Corp certified since 2009. And I would venture to say that most companies didn't even know what it was back then. But it fits with our model. I mean, again, we restore ecosystems. We improve livelihoods. We're also Fair for Life certified, which is a step above fair trade. Okay. We make sure that the farmers get paid the wage that we expect them to get paid. And it's roughly 30% above the average of cacao trading, which today is becoming quite challenging.
Yeah, that's an impressive number, though. 30% is not.
It is. And we, like I said, we trace it, we make sure. And that goes to supporting education systems in the regions as well. So improving livelihoods. And then last but not least, reducing waste. And if you look at the packaging on our chocolate products, it's compostable. Even our little truffle wrappers, which we're the only one in the world that can say that our truffle wrappers are actually backyard compostable.
Okay.
And I've tested it out. I've thrown them in the backyard and see how long it takes them to disintegrate.
I love it. Let me just sacrifice myself and eat a few truffles so that I can throw the packaging in the backyard and see. I might have to try that myself.
I've had people challenge me on it, and I'm like, go ahead, try it.
Go ahead. Throw it out back. Well, that's exciting. But you're also commercially successful. I mean, you're ranking high in chocolate in industry.
We are. We predominantly have focused on the natural channel, because being an organic, Fair for Life, non-GMO, gluten-free, all the attributes of the products, it was logical, especially 20 years ago, but even 5 to 10 years ago, it was logical that our customer was the natural foods customer, the Whole Foods, the Sprouts, the natural grocers. But that's changing. That's changing. The consumers that are going into the mainstream grocery stores now are looking for healthier, better for you organic products. Yeah. Walmart is the #1 seller of organic produce.
Oh, there you
you
go.
know, and so we're slowly making that transition into more of the conventional mass market, but we're number three in the natural channel in chocolate overall,
Okay.
and we're number one in dark chocolate. We don't do milk chocolate.
Okay.
We have in the past. Our consumers didn't see us as a milk chocolate company. So we have focused on dark chocolate. We have a line that we call our blackout line. And our blackout line includes a bar that's 100% total cacao. Now, you
Okay.
might think of that as baking chocolate, but it's really not. And I would, if you are a dark chocolate fan, you'll actually enjoy it. It's very creamy to be 100% cacao. And that's because of our manufacturing process. We work with a partner in Switzerland. All of our chocolates are made in Switzerland, and the Swiss know how to make really good chocolate. They've been doing it for centuries. And our partner is an amazing producer, a manufacturer, and they know how to pull the best out of the chocolate beans.
That's exciting. I am a chocolate fan, so I will try. 100% is not normally what I would eat, but I'm glad about the milk chocolate. Those of us who really are chocolate, we
Mhm.
like chocolate. We don't eat milk chocolate anyway.
Yeah,
So
no,
we're really into
it's
the
it. Yeah, it's funny. I grew up on milk chocolate, but once you refine your palate and start eating good dark chocolate, it's totally different.
save it for the good stuff. Well, you
Exactly.
referred to the whole industry and the market and what's happened in the climate and the pricing. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because there has been an escalation in prices, and how do you weather those storms? Is there innovation you can look to, or, what do you do in those situations? Because fluctuations are real.
Yeah, they are. Unfortunately, climate is playing a major role in the marketplace, especially, and not just cacao beans, but coffee and other products that grow in those regions. For those that don't know, about 60% of the world's chocolate comes from the western coast of Africa, predominantly Ghana, Ivory Coast, a little bit in Madagascar on the eastern side, but those are the major growing regions. And then in Latin America. And in Latin America, you get cacao from Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Dominican Republic, a little bit in northern Brazil. But those regions are pretty tight because that climate, that humid equator type climate is what it takes to grow cacao beans. They won't grow up north. So unfortunately, Africa has experienced drought for the last 2 to 3 years. And last year, the crop was about 30% less than the normal crop. Africa produces about 60% of the world's chocolate. So if they're 30% down, that's a decrease of almost 20% on a global basis. And that has driven the prices up dramatically. January 1st of this year, cacao beans were selling, and they're commodities. They're traded on two commodity exchanges in New York and London. That's really what drives the price. And January 1st of this year, they were around $4,000 a ton. April 19th of this year, they were $12,800 a ton.
That's a huge increase. No idea.
400% increase. It has come down some, and it fluctuates. It's a commodity. It's traded just like other commodities, oil, gas, coffee, other commodities out there. But it's not going to come back down to where it was. The crops are predicted in Africa to be a little better than last year, but not back to full scale. And so it's going to continue to be a challenge to source the right products. Fortunately, all of our beans come out of Latin America. We're a blended bean product. We believe we get the best flavor profiles that way rather than being single source. There's some good single source chocolates out there, but Alter Eco has always been a blend. And again, we've worked with our co-ops for decades now. And so they're loyal to us and we're loyal to them.
Mhm.
So I'm not concerned about us getting our product. But of course, we have to pay a fair wage for these
Sure.
people. And if they can make more money by selling it on the commodity exchange, then we can't not pay them that,
Right,
you
right.
know, and pay them a fair for life certified wage, even above that.
Mhm.
And so it's very, very challenging. We're waiting to see what the crops do, because the crops typically start coming in around October, because they're in the southern hemisphere. They're on the opposite growing season of us.
Right.
And so the crops really start to be harvested. They harvest year round, but the major harvest runs from like October to April.
Okay. Well, so I guess increasing and helping the farmers be better at their farming, so maybe they can withstand or not lose as much of their crop during those drought times, or changes in the weather, so that they can be able to weather the storm, no pun intended, a little bit better,
Yeah.
moving forward. But that's all a process, right? That doesn't happen this season, next
It
season.
is. It is. And unfortunately, cacao is not one of those things that is an annual crop. You know, you have these
Right.
other products like turmeric and ginger and things that'll spike in price, but then the farmers can just plant more for next year.
Right.
It takes it if you plant cacao trees, it takes roughly 5 years for them to mature to produce fruit.
Okay.
And that's a long cycle.
That is, yeah, it just takes a little bit more forethought and investment, and, just trying to figure out how are we going to still find supply, or work this out in between time while you're trying to help recover from some of those situations.
And I think what you're going to see is some companies that aren't really chocolate focused. You know, they may use cacao powder or cacao butter or things like that in their products. They're going to deviate away from those.
Okay.
And you know, they're going to reformulate with other products or with flavors and things to cover up, that will reduce the use of those ingredients, and that's going to make it easier for us that are chocolate focused, because it'll help with the demand. I'm seeing that, you know, the major companies like General Mills and Quaker and Kellogg's and Kellanova and some of these others are already starting to try to reformulate, just because they don't want to pass that cost along to the consumer. It's not really fair, you
Right.
know, and the consumers can't really absorb it. I mean, if I had to go out with a 70% price increase, I think consumers would say, no, thank you. I'll buy popcorn or Doritos as a snack as opposed to chocolate.
Yeah, they'll find something else to do. Well, not wanting to end on kind of a down note, that we're gonna, weather the drought situation, and companies will be reformulating, and those of you who focus just on chocolate will be able to innovate and, move forward, and hopefully help your farmers as you do that. But you have shared such a great mission for the company, and early on adopting, when the original founders of the company just adopted these standards that are, now topics of conversation for regular people, but 20 years ago they weren't. So that was just such forethought that they had to come into the food industry with those tenets. And it's exciting to see that you are continuing that trend. Would you like to share anything else with our audience about the future of the company, or your thoughts about the food industry or chocolate?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I
love
think
to hear
the
it.
company's mission is solid. You know, we, like I said, we have trademarked the phrase "the cleanest, greenest snacks on earth," and we have branched outside of chocolate. We have a line of granola, and our granola, the oats are all 100% from regenerative farms. And so we're looking at other product categories, because again, Alter Eco doesn't say chocolate, it says what we stand for. And so I would say stay tuned, look for Alter Eco in other categories. We are growing, we're investing in the company heavily, we're expanding, and we're coming out with new chocolate lines too.
Oh,
So we're excited about some of the new flavors that are coming out, and you know, we're continuing to innovate in our core markets, but we're also looking at adjacencies. So just stay tuned to Alter Eco Foods. You'll start to see a lot of new things coming from us.
very exciting. Thanks again, Keith, for being with us. And to our audience out there, if you need an excuse to eat some truffles, you can use Keith's experiment on the packaging, eat some truffles and throw the packaging out in your backyard and just see how long it takes to compost out there, because sustainable packaging is one of the tenets of the company. And I'm going to try that experiment myself. I appreciate y'all listening, and please subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Until next time, I'm Pam Line-Miller.
Thanks for listening to Future Foodcast. Future Foodcast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.